Hey Greg, can you hear me?
Yeah. So did you have your surgery yet, or
I did.
how did that go?
Um, it was interesting. So I did the surgery on February 22nd,
Mhm.
and it's supposed to be just a simple thoracic laminectomy in the
Mhm.
T4, T5. However, when they went in, they found I think it's the size of a big marble, hard as a rock of calcifications,
Mhm.
and it was pushing towards the dura. So when they
Mhm.
were cleaning up the calcification, they found that there was a hole on the dura,
Hmm.
and it was leaking
The fluid.
the fluid, yeah, the
Yeah.
cerebral spinal fluid.
Mhm.
So they had to fix that hole. So a surgery that was supposed to be for only 2.5 hours, it took 6 hours
Oh my God.
later.
Really?
Yeah. And then I was only supposed to be in the hospital for 2 days, ended up being there for 5 days, had to lay flat for over 48 hours because of that leak.
Right.
Um, so it was pretty intense to say the least. And I got back February 26th, and I was progressing pretty decently in terms of pain, um, but then I started taking oxycodone, and
Mhm.
well, first I was taking diazepam to
Right.
just relax my muscle and be able
Yeah.
to sleep. At first I was taking that, but once I got out of the hospital, I started taking the oxycodone like twice a day. And I was regular for several days, and then on the 6 days after taking oxycodone, I started having digestive issues.
Constipation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
constipation, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
um, hemorrhoids and all that. And that was even, I felt worse than the surgery.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that lasted for almost a week. I'm much better now. It's starting to be more in terms of bowel movements, starting to be more regular, and hemorrhoids shrinking. So
Oh, good.
I have more energy now. So I feel like I'm moving forward. And they also removed the staples
Mhm.
last Thursday. There were about 25 staples. So it was a long
Wow.
incision. Yeah, it was about, I think it was supposed to be like 3 inches initially, but they had to cut longer to 6 inches instead. So but it's healing nicely, I feel. I'm starting to feel like just itchiness and
Mhm.
a little bit of pull and stretch here and there. Um, but I stopped taking the pain medication since I started having the constipation issue. I just said I'm
Right.
done with that.
Right.
I
Right.
don't want that anymore. I'm done. I rather feel that pain rather than the other pain.
Right.
So
Right. 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 I get you.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the root cause of the other issues, right? So I stopped taking that since I think over 7 days ago. So now I'm better. I'm not even taking Tylenol, so I'm just, I'm not taking any medication other than my normal blood pressure
Mhm.
medication. That's about it.
And how are pain levels?
Pain levels is very manageable. I'm doing
Okay.
more things. Yeah. Somehow the wound on the incision is healing pretty nicely. But I guess my question to you is, what else should I do? Oh, by the way, I also worked with the orange healer and the green healer,
Mhm.
kind of to move stagnation and stuff
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that along.
Mhm.
So that certainly helped the process. Of course, I haven't applied any oils on the wound because I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
apply anything on it just yet. So I guess my question to you, if you don't mind, maybe quickly checking in on what else I need to work on in my system, because I think my system had a shock when I started taking that pain medication, because I've never taken any pain medication in my entire life. So
But
if you
the
don't mind,
pain levels are pretty manageable right now, right? You didn't have too bad of a rebound or anything like that, or
no, no,
okay,
yeah,
good, good for
yeah,
you. So as soon as the wound is closed, I'd go pretty hard on the helichrysum for a while. That will, clean up the scarring and help reduce, how you're describing like that pulling sensation when you're kind of moving around and stuff. That will
mhm.
help unwind a lot of that. Um,
So is that application
yeah, I
or
would I
no?
would put it, have Paul like rub some in on the area. It's probably an area that's hard for you to reach. So,
Yeah,
just having put several drops in the area when the wound is closed, and then just kind of gently rub it in, like not applying pressure too hard, but just kind of rubbing it so it gets in through the skin. I definitely
do
would
I
be
do
doing
I
that.
apply it neat or
Yeah, I
in
would do
carrier
neat.
oil?
Yeah,
Neat.
I mean, if you want, you can do it in carrot oil, but for like the first few dosages, at least I usually do neat for that. And then you can put it in uh you can put it in rosehip oil, or you can put it in tamanu. I tend to
Okay.
like the tamanu a little bit more, just because of the tamanu will help reduce some of the inflammation and the scar tissue as well. And so sesame oil would also be good.
Okay. I have all of those. Yeah.
Yeah, so just use
Okay.
any of that. And then, any time that there's a back issue, or like, here you're talking about a surgery, or where you've like had to deal with something where it's been compromised like that, I would go through and open up the breath a bit. you
Yeah.
know, definitely go through and just take some long, slow, deep breaths with, like, hyssop, Sitka, myrtle, something like that, just to open up the lungs and the diaphragm. It will also take some of the pressure off the spine and the spinal muscles by going through and doing that, because if the
Okay.
diaphragm is tight, the spinal muscles tighten up. And so that will just help you to stay comfortable. And
Yeah.
then just because you went through that, I would like either balance out the autonomic nervous system, or do something like tarragon or marjoram, just to kind of keep pushing you on a little bit more of that rest and repair mode. Your body, when you have these kinds of compromised situations where it's like a surgery or an injury or something like that, your body goes into a little bit more of fight flight, and so it slows down the healing process a little bit. You sound like you're pretty comfortable, so I would say that fight flight is probably not a super big issue for you, but I would just keep doing that, because it would still encourage like deep sleep and rest and relaxation, and like when you're laying there needing to be still, it becomes a little bit easier. Like
Mhm.
when people had issues where they were having to be bedridden a lot, I would use a lot of lemongrass with them, either diffusing or put it on like a part of their body with some lotion or something, just so that they're able to relax more when they're bedridden. And it keeps the body from getting sore when you are having to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time recovering, because I mean that actually becomes quite the issue. You don't
Yeah.
really think of it like that, but being bedridden or not being able to move around very much actually can be kind of hard on the body. And you get stiff, you get achy. Um, if you need to augment that a little bit, terebinth is always a good one, or even like Sylvester pine. I tend to go terebinth on that, just because of the stiff, achy joints. Terebinth can be very helpful for that, and you would want to just put it on the joints where it's achy. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Around the incision, it feels sore.
yeah,
The muscle still sore
yeah.
and tender. Yeah.
So, I mean, the good news is, like when you have a surgery, that first week, it doesn't really feel super bad. Like, I mean, it hurts. It's the second week where it really
That
hurts.
was the
And
second
yeah,
week.
and that second week,
Yeah.
if you're getting through that and you're doing okay, and granted you did some pain meds, but I'm one to say keep the pain down as much as possible, because the pain will throw the body into kind of in a crisis mode a little bit. And so that you got through the second week pretty okay. And, it sounds like you're starting your third week and you're pretty comfortable. You just gotta, it's like time now, like time and gravity. Like as long as there's no weird complications, keep the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system balanced with lemongrass, anise, tarragon, something of that nature, marjoram.
With the
Quinquism.
tarragon and marjoram, how
You
do
can
I
just
use it?
actually inhale it. Like,
Inhale,
you
okay.
could just inhale it. I mean, if you want to put a couple of drops of tarragon in water and drink it, or lemongrass, you could do that. Marjoram, you can always just put on the skin. I mean, the thing that's nice about marjoram is it will take out some of the spasms in the body, even if you don't put it on the spot. Like,
Okay.
for example, um, I would have people who had like, broken a bone or something, and say they were in a cast, with their hand up to their elbow, and the arm was getting like tied, and it's in that fixed position, and it just gets uncomfortable. I would have them put marjoram like up on the shoulder, like not even
Mhm.
close to the cast, and it would take
Okay.
the achiness out and the tension and the cramping out of the hand, even though it wasn't on the spot. And
Okay.
so you could do some version of that. Like, you could just put it like up on your shoulders, like here,
Yeah.
or put it on your wrist, or put it on your belly, just put like a little bit on your chest or on your belly and just kind of rub it in. And it will take the pressure off of that area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay.
Marjoram, my experience also is any time like where bones or ligament needs to heal, marjoram definitely accelerates that process, because it reduces some tension, and it does increase blood flow into the area a bit, but it doesn't make the blood like pool. You know what I mean? Like, you can put circulatory oils on an area and drive a bunch of blood in the area, but if the area is still a little compromised, the blood ends up just pulling and causing like, swelling or little edema. And marjoram doesn't tend to do that.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
black pepper can be good, but I would use it like farther down the line. Like,
Yeah.
like maybe in about 2 weeks, you could take like a black pepper salt bath, because black pepper is very good for stimulating circulation. It's very good antispasmodic, and it actually has some pain relieving properties, and has some anti-inflammatory properties to it. And I always like to mix it with like turmeric or like ginger, or turmeric and black pepper work really well together. And so, like, don't we do that in one of your tonics?
Yeah,
Black
the
pepper.
Vitality.
Yeah, Vitality. Yeah.
And it's boiling.
The black pepper actually will make the turmeric work better.
Okay.
So yeah.
That sounds good.
Frankincense could also be thrown in that mix, like you could either put it on the body or topically, internally.
What was that one?
Frankincense.
Frankincense. Okay.
Yeah, the frankincense is really good for like the precursors to inflammation, like it will kind of reduce some of that. So like for me, I use a lot of like the Three Wise Men, which is, basically a fancy frankincense and myrrh. And, it has an anti-inflammatory effect. It has an impact on lymphatic movement. It's anti-inflammatory. It reduces pain, because the myrrh diminishes the intensity of pain. It's not necessarily, I guess you could call it a pain reliever, but it's also like it calms down the pain and how your brain processes pain. Like it hits a lot of the same receptor sites that like pain meds would hit. And
Mhm.
so, without the intoxicating effect.
Yeah.
And so you can always use, a bunch of myrrh in there. So, it sounds like you really got a handle on it though. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know that you really need to step up your game too crazy. You sound pretty
Okay.
comfortable, and it's just, I mean, that your spinal cord was leaking.
Yeah, that was not
That
good.
was, it's not crazy, but at the same time, that's getting kind of serious. Like, thank
Yeah,
God that they found that because that could have gone on for a long time.
yeah,
And so, that got corrected, but probably going to be a little bit of recovery from that, because
yeah.
the issue being that mm, the fascia that wraps around your spinal cord can also get like a lesion in it, which is basically like a cramp, like
Mm-hmm.
or like a spasm. And
Mm-hmm.
so the helichrysum should help with that. Like, even later down the line, if it is like you still feel like there's an area where it's still wound up, a little bit of helichrysum internal, black cumin internal could work. And in extreme cases, what I've done with something like that is I have them take MSM, that sulfur compound that you get they usually use it for arthritis, but it's really good for breaking up scar tissue. And, that's just another way of saying lesion. And so sometimes taking that internally can help, but my guess is you're going to probably be able to handle all of this with helichrysum. But if you need
Okay.
to problem solve it, I mean, there was a couple of times where when I was specializing in whiplash and car accidents and things where people would just have these like crazy back injuries. And they'd have surgeries and we'd relax the muscle, but there was still like a lot of scar tissue and scarring. And so one of the things that I would do is I would put either a tincture of lobelia on the spot,
Mm-hmm.
or I would do what do you call it when you do like the herb on the body, like no, it's not a compress, but it's not a plaster.
Poultice?
Yeah, poultice. Where you would heat up a bunch of the raw herb, and then you get it real, it's still lobelia, and then you'd put it on a spot, and then put a cloth over it with a moist heating pad, and let that go in, and it will relax everything in that area, especially the fascia. And in severe cases, I would do that. It's messy, and to potentially do that, you get enough herb and all the stuff to set it up. Yeah, it's like probably a $30 like little procedure to go through and do that. And you would have to have somebody do it to you because you would have to be laying face down on that. But
Mm-hmm.
it can work a miracle. The other one is just the if you're having a hard time with that and the helichrysum doesn't get it, is the castor oil
That was a compress.
yeah, that's a compress, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get my lingo right. Yeah. So you get do the castor oil, packs on the body. And
Okay.
castor oil is it's very cleansing. It's it's a lot of orange product, so it actually moves a lot of the lymph. And whenever you're looking at like scar tissue, I mean, part of that is you're having to relax or release the fascia, which is what a lesion is the fascia has tightened up. And part of that is if the lymph is stagnant in the area, the fascia binds up. And so if you can't get it to unwind, you just keep treating the lymphatic movement in the area, and it will unwind lesion. Because even if you look at what helichrysum is, I mean, it does a bunch of amazing things, but it is a great lymphatic stimulant. Like it, I mean, it moves lymph. It increases the circulation. It helps the body to detoxify. It thins down the viscosity of lymph. I mean, it's a really good all around lymphatic oil, and that's why it works for so many things. Is basically it's a lymphatic oil.
Okay. So I can take helichrysum ingest it once a day and black
Yeah.
cumin once a day. Okay.
Yeah, the black cumin you can go crazy. I mean, you could, the helichrysum once a day is probably enough. Like if you really
Okay.
had to, you could do twice a day. I mean, in extreme cases, we step up the dosage, but I don't like to step it up too much. Like, you know, a couple drops, 1 to 2 times a day, I think is pretty fine. And then, you know, when the wound closes, you can start putting it on directly. If the wound is still open, what you could also do is just put a few drops on your wrist and then rub the wrist together, just to support lymphatic movement. But you could also do that with other lymphatic oils.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And if you have
Thank you.
some issue come up or something, you know, I'm glad to talk it through with you. So, you know,
Okay.
just let us know. But you sound, I mean, for what you went through, you sound in amazing shape for what you went through.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel a whole lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm focusing on the positive and the what's
That
working right now.
probably made you feel pretty crappy,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So
Thank you so much, Greg.
you're so
and
welcome.
Samantha.
Yeah, I'm glad that's all going good. And tell Paul hi for me.
I will. Thank